Hello and Happy New Year and welcome to Fox Sports Lab NFL. We've had a break. The NFL hasn't, but it's been Christmas, it's been New Year, and we get to the playoffs. So welcome James Clements as always. Happy New Year to you, James. We've been watching with interest and we've arrived at the playoffs.
We have. I'll tell you who hasn't though, Matty. The Jacksonville Jaguars. I'll tell you what. Way to fall from grace. What are you doing? Unbelievable gear. Oh, I love a good bit of NFL ineptitude from like a classic franchise that was always sort of sucked and can't sort of get out of their own way. But we do have 14 teams remaining, Matty, and it's a really awesome, fun playoff setup, I think, because you've got very clearly sort of the two best teams that are one seeds on both sides, and then a lot of question marks outside of that. But the cool thing is, Matty, you won't hear this, mentioned very often, I think, in the lead up to these games this week. Did you know that Jared Goff used to play for the Detroit Lions, for the Rams, and then on the other side, Matt Stafford used to play for the Lions, and now they play against each other. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So we've got some big storylines this week that we're going to hit on, obviously, time and time again. You'll hear it a lot. But there are some really good games coming up.
Yeah, that's a promoter's dream, isn't it, that one? But we'll drill down into the games later in the week. What we're doing earlier in the week here is trying to maybe have an early look at who might be the teams to follow throughout the playoffs and maybe get all the way and win the Super Bowl. Now, let's start with the AFC. Who's going to win there? We know Baltimore, the number one seed. They got the week off. They did the right thing by the Steelers by resting Lamar. Thanks, guys. But the Bills won that last game against Miami and now go into the number 2 seed. The Chiefs, number 3 seed. How do you see the AFC?
Well, that's kind of, I think, the key aspect there for me, that the Bills held on, Matty. They held on. They've won 5 straight now. Heading into the playoffs, they snagged the 2 seed after all was lost. All was lost. It was over. The Bills are trashed. They were 6-6. They were 6-6, and they've made it. Good on them. I love this, and that's kind of like my probably bit of a smoky to come out of the AFC. They're my big surprise packet. I think they can hold on. This first-round matchup, it falls really, really nicely in sort of in their favor, right? So they're a bit of a winner as I look at this bracket, because for anyone to sort of come into this playoff situation, to come from the absolute clouds to land the 2 seed, to win the AFC East by basically falling over the line against the Miami Dolphins team, they now get to play Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh, talk about like a team that just sort of, also fell backwards into the playoffs. Yep. They won that many games almost despite themselves, the Steelers, with plenty of injuries. They've made plenty of moves at QB. They've gone from Kenny Pickett. They've gone through Mitch Trubisky. They're on Mason Rudolph. We talked about Mason Rudolph being, not the ideal Christmas present for Steelers fans, but he's turned out okay. They've followed his red nose, I guess. And now the Bills, for me, are the big winners out of this, because if they can just get past this Steelers team, and they're obviously really big favorites already this early in the week, I think that line will just sort of keep on moving. I love the Buffalo Bills to sort of keep on moving through, because then they'd likely take on KC in the second round. I really don't like KC. I don't like the way they're playing.
Neither do I.
I think their defense has been really good, obviously, but the offense has just been an absolute mess. And then you look at somebody else like Houston and Cleveland play this fantastic game, Matty, where you've got Houston, who have a bit of a whiff about the old happy to be here kind of vibes. They've won the AFC South, which was chaotic. They've got a rookie head coach, a rookie QB. It does sort of feel like Joe Flacco and that Browns defense will probably have the wood over them. But the thing is, I think the way that would then roll, you're likely to probably see the Browns end up with Baltimore. So I think the big one for me in the AFC is to come away going, I think Buffalo actually have a sneakily okay run with a bit of a Super Bowl appearance, maybe in the, off in the distance for them. But there was a sort of like another little bit of a thing about this. You've got a Miami KC game where Tyreek Hill, there's another storyline for you, Matty. Tyreek Hill, did you know he used to play for the Chiefs? Amazing, isn't it? It's like, yeah, it's another one. So we've got plenty of those. I think there's another one where you've got Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott. So you've got the Buffalo Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers coaches. They were college teammates. That's another one for you right there. So there's plenty of stuff there going on in the AFC. But I think Buffalo sort of came out as a bit of a winner in my eyes. And I think they can probably worm their way through this bracket to probably take on Baltimore in the AFC Championship game. And if they make it, I don't know if Baltimore can get out of their road sometimes. So that might be a bit of a sneaky upset.
They've got to prove that in playoffs, don't they? They're yet to do that with Lamar.
Exactly.
All right, so Buffalo, the team to follow there. In the NFC, the 49ers deserved favourites. Dallas deserved second favourites. Is it as simple as just those two?
To be honest, it does sort of feel that way, doesn't it? Because you've got a weird sort of setup where the Eagles have completely fallen off a cliff. Tampa Bay talk about lucky to be here. We've got another NFC South champion where it's just like we're going to keep changing year in, year out. Tampa Bay have now just sort of ripped off a few of those in a row behind Baker Mayfield, which is like, to be honest, it's one of the storylines that'll probably get buried a little bit, Matty. Tampa Bay could easily win this game against Philly. They could easily do it.
Philly are woeful.
They've been horrible. They've maybe lost AJ Brown to a knee injury as well. Jalen Hurts has got a bung finger. So look, Baker Mayfield, all he does is win, right? The dude took the Browns to the playoffs. He beat the Steelers in Heinz Field. He was a drive away from beating Mahomes and the Chiefs. And then he sort of got, tossed aside. And they, the Browns went with Deshaun Watson, the man who doesn't mind a massage. And then all Baker Mayfield does is turn around and win the NFC South. Incredible gear. But I still think Dallas are my pick to sort of like make a bit of noise, I think, in the NFC. And then the other one is the Rams. We sort of hit on this, right? You've got Matt Stafford returning to Detroit. It's like the most Detroit storyline you could possibly imagine. A team that's had zero playoff success for 30 years. Their old QB, their old number one pick, Matty, comes in and beats them. And you're like, man, we were so close. And it feels exactly like that's how it could go. So I think the Rams are a bit of a sneaky pick as well to, maybe even make that NFC title game, because we know that there's that sort of very storied history between them and the Niners, between Sean McVay and you've got the Niners coach, Kyle Shanahan. And you just have these moments where the Rochambeau action of like who can beat who in the NFC is how I feel. Dallas, awesome in the 2 seed because they're incredible at home. They should probably fly their way through. So I feel they're a big winner in this bracket, and I think they could win through. And to be honest, I still feel like the Niners come out of the NFC, though, just because they're that good, they're that balanced, and they get a couple of weeks to sort of get healthy as well.
Okay, Niners the team to beat, but Rams the team to watch. Dallas are a little bit like Baltimore. They've got to prove themselves in the playoffs as well, don't they? All right, put your future hat on right here, right now. Who plays the Super Bowl? Who wins? Who wins the MVP?
I feel like we've got the Niners and Buffalo. There's a classic NFL game, Matty, back in 1992, the no punt game. You've got Jim Kelly going up against Steve Young. It's like week 2, I think, of 1992. And it's a classic NFL game. And I would absolutely love to see that because we never got this in a Super Bowl back in the, the sort of early 90s when Buffalo were really, really, really good. And obviously very famously lost 4 on the trot. But I think this could be the year that Buffalo just sort of keep just winning and just keep falling backwards into wins. Obviously, the big test for them will be KC if that happens in week 2, as long as they get past the Steelers, of course. And yeah, like anything can then happen in the championship game if they end up playing Baltimore. So the Niners, though, feel like the big one to me. I think they're just so balanced on defense, offense. Brock Purdy's proven time and time again that he's really, really just sturdy in the face of pressure. It doesn't really matter to him. So I feel like you've got probably the presumptive MVP of the NFL in Lamar. Lamar Jackson's probably going to win the MVP. Like, he's my pick. He's the favorite as you sort of got towards the end of the season. But it just sort of feels like Baltimore always have like these weird hiccups right at the end of these playoff sort of runs. It feels like they should probably make the AFC Championship game, but I feel like there's another hiccup in store. And this might be the Buffalo sort of the sort of rebirth after everyone had written them off. They've ripped off 5 straight. Could they win another 3 straight, Matty? Why not? Let's see them do it. But I think they then lose to the Niners in the Super Bowl. And I think Christian McCaffrey ends up your Super Bowl MVP. But there is one thing to remember before we go into the into this first round. Basically, QB's making their first ever start in the playoffs, Matty, against, playoff ready QBs who have been there before. We've got 4 of those games this week. It's pretty interesting. So the record, I think, since 2002 is 17-36 for the first timers. It's not great, but it sort of does mean that one of the 4 will likely get through. So that 4 is Jordan Love versus Dak Prescott in Green Bay, Dallas. You've got CJ Stroud versus Joe Flacco, Super Bowl winner Joe Flacco. You got Tua. That's right. Tua's not made a playoff start. He's playing against Patrick Mahomes, and you've got Mason Rudolph against Josh Allen. So just think about, there's probably going to be at least one upset of those, first timers out there this week, which would be pretty interesting. My guess is that it might be Stroud. He could come from the clouds. Otherwise, I can't really see the other 3 winning. So just keep that one in the back pocket there, Matty.
All right, well, I'm going to just run straight away and get a little bit on the Texans. All right, mate, thank you for that. We've got Buffalo, the team to watch there to get through to play the Niners. Christian McCaffrey to win the MVP. The Rams, a team to watch as a smoky. I don't mind the Browns as a bit of a smoky, but you've just told me the Texans will win, so cross that out. Mate, we'll drill down onto some of those games, get some of your same game multis later in the week as we get a little bit closer. We know who's playing team personnel-wise later in the week, mate. Look forward
Can't
to
wait, Matty.
again.
This is such a great setup. It's the most fantastic time of the year. The super wildcard round. I love it. I love that we've now got super in front of it. It's the best part of it.
And this has been a super time talking to Jaymz Clements. I'm Matthew Campbell. We'll be back later in the week, as I mentioned, but take word of what Jaymz says. He's very rarely wrong.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.